Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Master Your Mindset podcast. I'm really excited for this conversation that I'm about to have with a special guest today because I know it's going to be really spiritual, and we all know I love spiritual chats. So, welcome to Karlie. Karlie is a Reiki practitioner and a spiritual self-love coach. Welcome to the Master Your Mindset podcast, Karlie.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and for the spiritual chat we're about to have. It's going to be great.
Yes. And I was actually just thinking, and I know that this is totally off on a tangent already, but the last guest I had on the podcast was Maggie. And I know that you're friends with
Mhm.
Maggie. That's why I'm like, oh, another spiritual chat. I'm really excited about this.
Yeah. I cannot wait. Every conversation I've had with Maggie is just so like cosmic and just helps me connect to some sort of deep purpose I'm meant to go on deeper. So I'm really excited to have another spiritual chat and bring it to your audience. So it'll be great.
So we did do a live IG together a few weeks ago now. So this
Mhm.
conversation will be similar. So for the listeners, if you have watched that live IG, then you're just going to get an expanded conversation around all of these yummy spiritual things. And if you haven't, I suggest you go and listen to that, watch that over. It's on both of our Instagram pages. But as always with my guests, I would love to start off with just understanding a little bit about your story and your journey as to how you became, a Reiki practitioner and a spiritual self-love coach.
Yes, this question we were even talking about before we recorded that every time I tell kind of my background, it's a bit different and everyone gets a bit different of a take. But I guess we'll wind it back to the foundation, I guess, of my healing journey because I feel like most coaches too, a lot of what draws us to this work is our own experiences and our own journeys. So really what drew me to become a coach and run my own business was my own healing journey that really began when I was just heading into college. I had struggled with an eating disorder ever since I was like 10 or 11. I was in dance and just had some things in my upbringing that kind of morphed into an eating disorder and I wanted to control things through my body image, and then we have societal conditioning telling, especially oriented towards women, needing to look a certain way and be a certain way. And so that all kind of fed into me really trying to control my body and try to control my diet to feel that sense of just having purpose and feeling like I fit in and feeling valued and seen and chosen. So I really struggled for about 6 years before I really received any sort of help. And it kind of started to impact my health on an extreme level because I was under eating. I struggled with bulimia. So if anyone has a eating disorder background and is triggered by these topics, I would just recommend maybe skipping a few minutes forward. As I know sometimes when you hear people talk about their story, it can be a bit triggering. So just honor wherever you're at in your journey. But yeah, I struggled with that for many years, and then it started to really impact my health. So I struggled with hair loss, and every food that I would eat would make my stomach like blow up. My metabolism stopped working. I was chronically fatigued. I just felt like I had, no energy. And I remember telling my parents, like when I got home from school, I was like, I'm sorry, I can't be nice to you guys. I have to be nice to people all day, which is just like the most like terrible thing to think about now. But it's like I had no energy to like, I would get home from school and just was zapped, like no energy. So it was really my senior year of high school that things started to change a bit because I started to receive help from like GI doctors and everything because I was struggling with so many stomach issues and no one could figure out the root cause, but the root cause was an eating disorder that I didn't tell anyone about. So it was like finally after I think a year and a half of going to multiple doctors that there was finally one that saw past just the symptoms and saw the root cause. And they told my parents, he was like, your daughter is a perfectionist. She's like straight A student, very like OCD, control everything, and is very underweight. Like she has an eating disorder. It's the root cause of everything. So my mom confronted me one day and she was like, you either sign these papers and say that you're agreeing to get treatment, because I think at that point I was like almost 18 and I had to like consent to get treatment. She said, you're either signing these papers or I'm going to forge your signature because you're getting help. And I remember at that point I was just like I laughed when she said that, because it was just like, it wasn't that it was funny, it was just like, oh my god, someone finally sees that I need help. It was kind of like a silent cry for multiple years. And then finally, like someone picked up that I needed help. So I just remember laughing. And it wasn't because it was funny. Once again, it was just like that energetic, like,
Yeah.
whoa, like it's not just on me anymore. So I started going to treatment, and the initial round of treatment was just basically like helping me with my diet, I guess, and like learning how to feed myself properly, because when you're 11 and you start struggling with eating, you never really learn how to nourish your body, or you don't even know what kind of like your healthy weight, what it's supposed to be at, because like all through puberty, I was struggling with an eating disorder. So yeah, it was just kind of like that initial round was just like surface level stuff. And then I was headed out to college and they were like, all right, well, you're free to go. And I was like, what? Like, I don't think I'm ready yet. I still need a lot of help. But going off to college, I was like, okay, clean slate. Like, we're just going to forget about it. I'm reinventing myself. Like, no, we're going to pretend the eating disorder doesn't exist. So I started freshman year of college, just having fun, doing all the crazy college things. And then sophomore year of college, COVID hit. And so I went back home to my parents. So it was very re-triggering. Like everything from the me growing up was just like once again shown in my face. And it was kind of like the eating disorder came back stronger, but like hidden. It kind of morphed into a different way. So I wasn't really picking up on it. It was like I knew it was the eating disorder, but I was just like, no, it's fine. Like I'm just being healthy, like coming back from my freshman year of college. I'm just working out a lot and eating really healthy. And like that can be an extreme too. Like you can over exercise, you can over eat healthy, like just eat healthy things and become scared of not following that strict routine. And so I was so like caught up in that, and that kind of I became addicted to it, addicted to over exercising and eating super clean and like never touching anything that wasn't healthy in like my eyes, in diet culture's eyes. And through that, it's like I started to go down this rabbit hole again where I was really struggling and I didn't tell anyone, and I was struggling for like a year. It was like all of my sophomore year of college into my junior year, I was struggling so hardcore with this eating disorder. But in the midst of all of it, I started to awaken spiritually, which was crazy. But little flashback to high school. So the real reason why I even agreed to sign those initial papers to go into treatment was because my dad started a healing journey when I was in high school. And he really struggled with like extreme anger growing up. I didn't have a good relationship with my dad. And he started to work with like a holistic rage therapist and started meditating and all this stuff when I was in high school. And I saw him transform. It was like night and day over the course of like 4 years. And so that gave me hope that, oh, like maybe there is more to me than who I am while I'm struggling with this mental illness. Like maybe there's something more. Maybe I can heal and become someone else. And I meditated for the first time when I was 17. My parents took me to the holistic therapist. He would do like meditations in his backyard, and it was a beautiful overgrown garden. And I feel like that should have been a sign for me that I was just meant to go down a spiritual path, because first time I meditated, I was never really open to like holistic health. My mom's from Mexico and like grew up, she'd like try to give me all the naturopathic stuff, would always like cleanse my room. And I was like, that's woo, that's weird. So when I meditated, it was like the first time I was getting in touch with my energy. And I'm in meditation, and this is when I'm 17. I had this like vision come through of this like kind of goddess walking in a field, and she was just wearing this beautiful like dress. And it was weird because I knew it was me. I was like, that's me, but I could never see myself being like this confident, empowered leader, kind of like with just this angelic aura. And I was like, what? And so that gave me hope. I was like, what if that I could be that? What if, because at that point I was like really kind of closed off, very control, like wanted to control everything, type A, OCD, really struggled with an eating disorder, anxiety. And I was like, what? So that was what gave me the hope to go down this path of healing. So flash forward, like I really haven't meditated consistently. It's like the end of my sophomore year of college. And I found like randomly a podcast because I didn't really know what I wanted to do for a career. I had always wanted to be a life coach. Like in middle school, I think I randomly heard of life coaching and I was like, yeah, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to have my own business. And I just kind of got shot down. People were like, yeah, that's not a real job. You need to go to college. You can't do that. So it just kind of like, I pushed it aside. I was like, yeah, I guess I can't do that. So it was like my sophomore year. I'm struggling. I'm like, okay, let's start like doing deeper work here. Like this surface level shit with like just focusing on like eating a certain way. Like it was good, but I needed more. I was like, there's deeper work that needs to be done. So I was just like listening to podcasts all of a sudden, and I stumbled upon Unfuck Your Brain. Have you heard of that podcast before?
I actually haven't.
It's really good. It's basically the woman that runs the podcast, she's the host. She's like a former lawyer, like went to Harvard, got a law degree, and then was a lawyer for a while, realized that she didn't want to be a lawyer anymore, and she became a life coach and started her own business. So I started listening to this podcast and I felt really empowered. I started to do this mindset work and I'm like, wait, this is like a really smart, badass woman who's a life coach. She has a law degree, but she decided she wanted to become a life coach. Like it's a real job and I can do it too. So at that point, I was studying like chemistry and biology, and I took like a 360, no, not 360, 180 and started going down the path of psychology and holistic health and healing. Like I switched my degree around. Um, and yeah, I started to do some mindset work. Like I kind of started to recognize like my thoughts don't have to control me, like they're not facts. And then randomly, it was like summertime, the start of summer, and I'm looking at recommended shows, and the show that pops up is a show by Samantha Daly. And I was like, no, it was the Makeshift Happen podcast. And so I started listening to it. And it was my first kind of like sprinkle of like spiritual coaching, like spiritual life coaching vibes. And I just like right away was so intrigued by what she was talking about. And I think the first one I listened to was like on angel numbers. And she recommended to get the book, The Universe Has Your Back. So I got it and I started reading it. And that summer, a lot of things just started to happen. Like I was dating someone that was from Guam and he went back home. So it was like we were doing long distance. All my roommates were out of the apartment. So I was alone a lot. And I'm like in the midst of doing this work, like this kind of more spiritual mindset work, but then the eating disorder comes up like louder than ever. Like I am struggling with bulimia full blown again and just over exercising. And I'm like, what the hell? Like I'm doing all this work. Why is this happening right now? Like why is everything blowing up in my face? And yeah, basically it was just me being shown that I needed to do something about this, and it was getting louder so that I could actually get to the root of it and really do something about it. So middle of summer, I ended up losing a cousin that I was very close to, and that was like the shift into, oh my God, life is very like it can people can be gone at any moment. And the way that my cousin had passed away was from like a botched plastic surgery, and it was like very sudden, and she really struggled with her own image a lot. She struggled with her body. And so to kind of have that happen, and it was like just a huge like reflection for me of being like, I will not let this be my death. Like, I will not allow the eating disorder to kill me, because at that point, my heart rate was like at 48 beats per minute resting. Like, I was not doing well at all. And so I was asking for a sign one day. I was just like really struggling. And I asked the universe for a sign. I was like, all right, I get it. I need to get help again. I need to be serious this time, and I'm not going to just do the surface level work. I need to figure out how to really heal from this. So I said, "All right, universe, like I'm trusting you." I think I was in my car. It was the first time I'm like talking to this thing. I'm like, what is this energy? I don't know. And I was still kind of skeptical about it. And I was like, all right, if going to treatment and following this path of healing is actually going to get me somewhere and it's part of my purpose, like give me a sign in butterflies, like a shit ton of butterflies, like send them to me strong and clear, because I'm going to be skeptical. So like a week later, I'm seeing butterflies everywhere. Like I'm nannying, I see some butterflies and I'm like, yeah, they're popping up more than normal, but nothing like, wow, this is it. This is my sign. Like I can do this. I can overcome this. And one day I'm walking with my roommates to the gym, and we like look over, and at this bush, I kid you not, it's like a field of like hundreds of monarchs. And I'm like, what the hell? Like I felt tears starting to form in my eyes, because I knew, I was like, this is it. I I get it. This is my sign. I'm choosing this path. Like I'm meant to heal from this. And all my roommates were like, I have never seen that many butterflies in my life. It was crazy. So basically that's where it all starts unfolding. I started going to treatment once again. I struggled with like panic attacks for 3 months when I started treatment. And I kid you not, I tried to take every anxiety medication I could to try to ease it. I had allergic reactions to every anxiety medication. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Why can't I like take medicine for this? And then 3 months later, I was doing the mindset work as well, all of this stuff, like in the midst of going to therapy and like working with a naturopath and a whole team of people. All of a sudden, one day it was like it clicked for me. It was the first time I experienced self-love. It was, yeah, like 3 months into treatment, and I was still showing up. Like every night I started to journal and meditate and do all these things. And I didn't really see anything working. I was like, I don't know if this is really doing anything. And it was like I was getting in my car in the morning. I was dealing with like extreme anxiety and was still struggling with the eating disorder. But I got in my car, and it was like all of a sudden I felt like I had an out of body experience where I just recognized, I was like, holy shit, I am going to work right now. I'm struggling with anxiety. I'm still struggling with the eating disorder, but I'm going to work and I'm doing this work with myself. And like, I'm here and I'm doing it. Like, I'm a fucking badass. And I was like, damn, I'm so proud of you. And it's just like that feeling where I felt so much love for myself for choosing to pursue myself and my well-being and my happiness. And it was like I realized in that moment that self-love and finding confidence and all this stuff, it's not about being perfect. It's about learning to accept where you're at and acknowledge everything that you're moving through, and just feeling that appreciation for yourself. So after that, the panic attacks stopped. It was like this shift in my energy, and things started to just happen. Like I on the Makeshift Happen podcast, Samantha Daly announced a first round of doing this like business coaching program. And I didn't really understand why. I was 19. I was 19 at the time. And I was like, I think I'm really young to start a business. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm in the midst of my healing journey, but I feel called to do this. And I remember I was like curling my hair, getting ready to go out. And I just decided, I was like, no, I'm going to sign up for it. And I remember telling couple of my roommates that I was doing it. And they were like, oh my God, because for a college student to invest that much money into a program is insane. And I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to save up. I'm going to invest in it. And And that was the start of everything within my business. I started to, follow this course where I was like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but we're going to uncover our purpose as we go. I felt called to help other women discover self-love at that point. I decided I was going to get my spiritual life coaching certification. I think I turned 20 when I started to do that. I ended up getting a degree then, like it unfolds more, but I've been talking for like 20 minutes now. But basically, it just kind of continued to unfold after that initial spiritual awakening. And with time and being on a spiritual path, I uncovered even more sides of myself and built even more trust in the universe that allowed me to solo travel and build confidence and begin to channel and be open to sharing the wisdom that I have within with others. Even though I'm young, even though I don't know everything, I realize that my work isn't to be perfect and to know it all. It's to just share what I know from my experiences. So that brings us here today. I got my Reiki certification my senior year of college, and then I got my Reiki 2 at the beginning of this past summer. So thank you for thank you for listening to that.
That is incredible. First of all, thank you so much for sharing that story. There was so much of that story that I actually didn't know myself as well. But I felt like I'm an empath, and I went on the journey with you through all of the emotions, like the highs and the low points and all of that. So I'm just so grateful that you shared that. One of the biggest reasons, I mean, there's a lot that I want to get into on this, but one of the biggest reasons that I have this podcast episode and actually like to bring guests on is to share their stories, because, and also their expertise in what they do now and the wisdom that they have from their experiences. But just because, like, everyone, this is going to sound so silly, but everyone is human, right? And so many people in this world have so much doubt in themselves, whatever that looks like from them. And a lot of people can't even see a vision for themselves as well, which is not like, in my opinion, you don't have to see a vision. It can be many visions moving towards, whatever is going to be your life vision unfolding. But I just like people to understand that, people like you who have made it, well, in my opinion, like, this is incredible, so well in this life so far, and you're still so young, and just like, even like the biggest of movie stars, sports stars, whatever it is that they desire, the route that they desire to go on, everyone is human and everyone has their journey. And just hearing like your journey, especially with the eating disorder and being like the age that you were, and the journey that you went on, and that you tried things like the doctors and the medicine, and that might work for some people, but for you, there were so many signs coming to you of like spiritual route. And it's just, I'm so appreciative for you to share that, especially for the people who can now see possibilities for themselves and whatever it is that they want to do, even if they don't know what that is. So firstly, thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. And also, it's just so interesting, isn't it, with like, there was definitely an era of your life when there was like a lot of control over you, like the addiction to the eating disorder and the perfectionism, and that was controlling your life, and that you can reflect back and see that now. And then moving into seeing all of those signs that were coming to you, the original meditation, the demonstration from your dad going on his healing journey, and your mum being Mexican, having all of these naturopathic, rituals and medicines and things like that. So, so, so cool that you have seen that, and now you've gone on your spiritual journey, you've awoken to that, because I know that you have done, moving forward, I know that you've done like a lot of solo travel, and that was really wholesome, and that was really spiritual, and that was really healing and expansive for you as well. So this is so cool. Thank you. I would love to, like, first of all, coming back into the early stages, when you were younger, did you know directly that you had an eating disorder or a like an issue around this area, or were you I guess perhaps unaware of that, and then there was like a certain stage? Because I know there are some instances where people are aware of something that's going on in their life and they don't do anything about it, they ignore it, they choose to ignore it, and then there are some people that just aren't aware.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I think at the start I knew kind of what I was doing. I knew that I think I can recall I was like 11 years old the first time that I thought about how much I was making like a quesadilla or something in my kitchen. It was the first time that I thought about, oh, I shouldn't put that much like cheese in it, or it was something like that. And I was in ballet and we wore like waist straps around our waist. And I was just like comparing my body to other people at that age a lot. And I think it was from that mixed with just messages of diet culture and women needing to be a certain way, especially if you're going like into the ballet world, that all kind of forced me to look at my body and the food that I was eating and say, okay, well, if I want to look this way and be this way so that I can be the best and be seen and to be chosen, then I have to focus in on my food. So I think I always kind of knew it was coming from not a good place, like a place of wanting to be different and almost yeah, like change my body. And I don't think it's not a bad thing to want to, treat your body well, but at that point it wasn't like that. It was definitely like diet culture influencing me. And it didn't feel good. So I think at the start, like I was young and kind of naive. I didn't know what I was doing. But as I grew older and I started to struggle more with things like bulimia, that's when I knew it was like a full blown eating disorder, because it's like I couldn't help it anymore. I couldn't really choose when I was engaging in things. It felt like it had power over me all the time. And I had to listen to this voice of the eating disorder. And now when I look at it, I see it as an energy outside of myself. My whole upbringing, I thought it was a part of me. I thought the eating disorder was this energy that was a part of me. But I can fully see now that it's an energy that's outside of me. And growing up, it had full power over me because I didn't have the power to and the resources to call my energy back to myself and really create that boundary. So yeah, I think I recognized like around when I was 15 that I actually really did need help for it. But I think part of me was really attached to this belief that I deserved to suffer and I didn't deserve good things. So for me, the eating disorder was in a way an abuser. Like it was this energy that I allowed. It was like me self-harming in a way, every time that I engaged in an act like that, because deep down I had this belief that I didn't deserve good things. I deserved to feel like terrible. And I think like actually a lot of people can probably resonate to that. Like a lot of people experience self-sabotaging when things get really good. All of a sudden it's like we do something to make it bad, whether it's a relationship or a routine or like something we do to ourselves so that we can feel bad, because a lot of us have an underlying belief that we don't deserve to feel good, that we deserve to suffer. And believe it or not, suffering is just part of the human experience. So we all will suffer, but it's just we don't deserve to suffer all the time. It's you get you experience the lands of hurts and pains, but no one deserves to live there. It's the conditioning that has made us believe that we deserve that, or that we're a bad person and we deserve to experience bad things. So that, yeah, I think at a certain point, it became very clear to me that I needed help and this was outside of my control anymore. Um, and it was deeper than just my body image. It was core, like there was deep conditioning that was making me do this to myself. So yeah, it definitely was. Yeah, I became very aware at a certain point, but I think as a child, I wasn't really aware what I was doing and how that was all manifesting. So
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, wow. And the belief thing, they're deep rooted, and especially there's like
Mm.
there's a journey to go on in itself to bring that up and actually heal that part of you, not even just become aware of
Yes.
it, but the healing of it. And I'm assuming that the self-love journey that you went on was a huge part of this healing. So I would love to know a little bit more
Mhm.
about your self-love journey. Like you've mentioned, there was journaling and there was the meditation practices now and those types of things. But what did your self-love journey look like, and how did this result in like a beautiful healing for you?
I love that. Yeah, I think it really began the moment that I chose for myself to go to eating disorder treatment. I think the first round was more so forced upon me, and it was still kind of like coming from an energy of, I don't know, it wasn't out of a place of love. It was out of a place of fear that I went the first time. But the second time was me finally choosing for myself that I deserved better and that I wanted better, and that I there was something more to me that I wanted to experience in this lifetime. So I think that was the first act of self-love that I ever did for myself, was choosing to go back to eating disorder treatment. And it really just built from there. I think with the support of like listening to podcasts and stuff, that was really like my gateway into doing any sort of work with myself. And I think anything that you do for yourself is an act of self-love, and the more that you start to act from a place of love, the more you gradually begin to build self-love. So certain things that I started to do, like the journaling, that was something big that I began to do, especially when I dealt with like that 3-month period of panic attacks. I was trying whatever I could to help me out, because I was like, I still have to go to school, I still have to show up. I started the course with Samantha. So I had to, I wanted to show up for that. And I was starting my life coaching certification. So it was a lot of pieces coming together that was like, they were all beautiful, but I needed an outlet because I also really struggled with insomnia. And I knew that my mind was just like going crazy. So journaling for me and choosing to do that nightly started to build kind of like a relationship with myself. Like I would journal, and I don't just do journaling where I'm like, oh yeah, and this is what I did in my day. Like I would just like spill out whatever was I was feeling. I would be like, today was a really hard day. I'm really feeling this. And these things are coming up for me. And it just allowed me to start to understand myself better. I think the journaling was definitely a big part of it, just because it did allow me to kind of begin to understand myself better, and just to see that I am a real person with real needs and that my needs are valid too. And so doing that was just huge, along with just choosing to meditate daily. Like that was a big thing. I started to do meditate and just try out other things too. Like I tried out EFT for anxiety, which really helped. And just these little acts that I was doing, I wasn't aware of it when I started to choose myself, that I was going to build self-love out of that, because I think we have a lot of kind of like a tainted view of self-love, thinking that it's something that we'll achieve when we're perfect or when we look a certain way or we are a certain way, but that's like the complete opposite. That's more like running from yourself and striving. But self-love is when you just turn around and you choose to hold your hand and you choose to hold space for yourself and your uniqueness and your flaws and your experiences and your upbringing, and just say like, hey, I see you. We're not perfect and we're not going to ever be, but I'm going to take care of you still. And I think that was, yeah, that was a big thing. So I think after that first experience of like really understanding what self-love was, and feeling deep compassion and like gratitude for myself for choosing this path, it just kind of started to continue to unfold from there. And I really think starting to go down more like a spiritual route and doing like energy work, I started, I think, treatment, it was like the fall time, and I was introduced to Reiki in the winter. So I was still really struggling with insomnia. And my dad started going to a Reiki healer, and he was like, yeah, this has really helped me with anxiety. And he was telling me a bit about the Reiki healer and how she's really good at like channeling, and like he had really amazing insights and breakthroughs when he went to Reiki, I finally decided I would try it out. And I was so scared. I was like, what is this lady going to see? Is she going to see that I'm like a bad person? Like, what's going to happen? But when I went to her, it was just so healing. And I was able to see that the energy of the eating disorder was outside of myself. And I actually regressed to like a past life when I was having Reiki for the first time. It was crazy. But it was like I just started to engage in practices that like nourished me instead of always choosing to give into the voice of the eating disorder or the voice of the ego that was telling me like you shouldn't eat, or you're bloated today, you don't deserve to have nice things. Like I would see that voice and I would just tell it to fuck off because I was like, guess what, I don't have to listen to you. And so I think it was just, yeah, the act of rebelling against what my conditioned mind was telling me and choosing to take care of myself, even when my mind told me I didn't deserve it. And with time, that voice of the eating disorder, of those disempowering thoughts started to get quieter, and I started to gain my power back. And I I built a relationship with myself. So I think that's what self-love is. It's choosing yourself and choosing to begin to hold a relationship with yourself. Like take yourself out on little dates. Think of it like a relationship. Like, yeah, you might not be happy with your partner, but you're still going to like hold space for them and you're still in that relationship. So you're going to have like fluctuations in energy and mood with your relationship. So it's the same thing with yourself. Like you have good days, you have harder days, but the underlying aspect of love is still always there. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I see a theme going on here, and the theme, and I've heard you say it often, is like choosing yourself. And you've
Mm-hmm.
even mentioned, whether you directly were saying to yourself in your mind or saying it out loud, I choose me, you're just choosing yourself in so many different ways by doing things for yourself and like going
Mm-hmm.
to get the help that you needed at the time, or going to a Reiki healer because that was something that was presented for you and demonstrated so that you could, try that out. I love this whole
Mm-hmm.
idea of choosing yourself in so many different ways, and that is a perspective of self-love that I guess I knew but I didn't really think too far into. So thank you for bringing that through, and
Mm-hmm.
also just even through your journey. I love just hearing how, and even coming back to the part of your story before where you were saying there were so many signs coming through, but I wasn't seeing them until you
Mm-hmm.
asked specifically for the sign of the butterflies. And I love stories like this. So I was waiting for the and then moment where you like all of
Mm-hmm.
these beautiful butterflies come. But I feel like your body has always been ready, but it was the mind that was coming through that was stopping you, that voice in your head, like you are mentioning right now, of like, no, you shouldn't have this, it's gonna make you bloated, like those types of things when you're like, just fuck off.
Mm-hmm.
I think your
Mm-hmm.
body was ready, and that's like really come through for you because now you are able to, or you were able to see the signs, and that is like the path that is opened up for you now into exactly
Mm-hmm.
everything you do. And just hearing about your self-love journey also, it's really cool to hear that you have dedicated your path to helping others with their self-love journey through, or a lot of things, but especially their self-love journey through your own experiences and things. And I feel like this is the thing. I feel like I'm going off on a tangent here, but it's like you mentioned earlier, there were the doctors that you went to in the very beginning to get help, and it would just be the same things, different types of
Mm-hmm.
medication, this, that. There was the one doctor who saw, who read between the lines and was listening to you, but
Mm-hmm.
was also seeing you and seeing what was going on, and actually that person to help you. I feel like you mentioned earlier, going back to the self-love, a lot of people have a different idea around self-love, and it might not be the idea that's actually going to get them to an ultimate place of self-love or even try. So it's like by choosing yourself, multiple times, all of the time. And just by understanding that being perfect is not it. Like being unperfect is perfect. And that is authentic to us. And we don't need to be the same as everyone else. And we just need to follow our own nudges, our own intuition, and what feels aligned. So yeah, this is definitely going all over the place, but I'm seeing this
I
all in
love it.
my head that
Mhm.
you following those nudges of those signs has really led you to the next place. I always say, and this, I guess we could talk about this in terms of manifestation, but I always say manifesting something in, whether it's a thing, whether it's just the outcome, whether it's the feeling, I mean, it's always the feeling, but another story. Manifesting something in is like a cake recipe. And it's like you need to put all the dry ingredients together first, and then the wet ingredients, and then combine the ingredients, and then put it in the oven to make this beautiful outcome, which is the cake. So that is kind of what has been presented to you from the story of yours of like, all the different signs and the different steps you had to take, healings you had to go, like, do, and
Mhm.
which led you to, the solo travel, and to now you doing what you do now in your life and things like that. So yeah, that was just everything that was coming to my mind. And I thought it was really, really cool. And I think a lot of people would be able to resonate in their own way with whatever they are going through, with the beliefs that we currently have that are blocking us from doing the things that we want to do. You also mentioned like you've tried a lot of different self-love, I don't know, tools, practices, and a lot worked for you, but there are some that you probably don't do. So something that I see a lot of people get caught up in is, there's they think that there's one or two tools that if it doesn't work for them, then nothing's going to work for them. But there's so many
Mhm.
different ways within self-love. And
Yeah.
yeah, and there is a way for you. So it's like don't ever give up on yourself, because you are the only one that you are going to
Mm.
have for the rest of your life, guaranteed.
Yeah.
So it's like
That's so
find
true.
those ways, whatever that looks like for you, to just continue to, you know, love yourself, or be on this journey of loving yourself. So yeah, so many tangents there. But that's everything that I felt came up as I was listening to you.
I love it. Yeah, and I definitely agree with the aspect of there are so many tools and resources out there, and some really resonate for people and some don't. And I think that's completely okay. Like for me, I was really called to energy healing, and I felt like that really clicked for me. And now running, holding energy sessions for people, I have a lot of people that come in and it's their first session. And some people are like, holy shit, I found my practice. Like this felt so good. I want to do this regularly. And then you also have people that are like, oh, that was such a great experience. Like, I'll see, like, I don't know if that was for me. Like, and that's okay. Like, there's practices for everyone, and there's so many, and you get to create your own too. Like, I think that's a beautiful part of really going down like spiritual healing is recognizing that it's all about feeling, having it feel good. Like no matter what kind of healing you're doing, it's not necessarily what you're doing, it's how it's making you feel. Like who cares if it's meditation or EFT or going for a walk or like, I don't know, going in a bath and cleansing your energy, whatever it is, it's not just for show. It's not something that you just do to do it. You do it because it works and it helps. And maybe you can't see it in that moment, right? Like before you do something like meditate, sometimes you're like, oh, I don't want to do that. But you do it because you know it helps you, and you fall in love with it because you know what it's doing for you. So if there's something that like you've been doing for some time and you're forcing yourself to do it, but it's like resulting in nothing, like you feel like it's not helping. In fact, it makes you feel worse. Stop doing it and try something new, or try it in a different way. And I always say, like, give something like a couple of weeks of trying it out. If it doesn't feel good after like 14 to 21 days, like, of course, certain things like meditating take longer, but you'll kind of know with certain practices, is this for me or is it not? Give it some time, follow it through, give it your all every time you show up to it. Like if you're going to sit down and meditate, sit down and meditate. If you're going to do it well. Like that's what I always tell people. But yeah, that was a bit of a tangent as well. But I love that you mentioned that, because there really is a practice for everyone,
Mm.
and you get to create them yourself too.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like the entire time I was just nodding, because I'm like, if all of this, I 100% agree with you with all of this. There was also something that you mentioned as well within your journey is like your first Reiki practitioner or healing session that you went to, you were
Mhm.
so nervous about what this person was going to see, which I feel like there are a lot of people that are probably listening to this that have maybe thought and don't really understand what healing sessions like Reiki or past life regression and things like that, but what they even are, but they're curious. And this could
Mhm.
potentially be something that does actually stop them from trying it. So I'd love to know what your
Mhm.
advice would be for someone who is curious about some sort of healing session and they are just not executing it or going to it because they are so nervous about what might come up for them or what someone else, as in the healer, might see.
Yeah. Well, I would first start off by saying that anytime that you're scared, you're feeling fear around something, or it's like kind of uncomfortable, that doesn't mean stop, don't do it. It just means, hey, you've never done this before, and your ego's trying to protect you because it's something new. So no matter what it is, whether it's, yeah, trying a new spiritual healing modality or just like going down a new path or whatever it is, like fear coming up doesn't mean stop. It means, hey, just by the way, this is something you haven't done before. It's outside of your comfort zone. So if you're feeling called to do it, fear's still going to be there, but you can still do it. Like fear doesn't mean red light, it means green light if you're drawn to it. So if I would say, first of all, if you're curious is beautiful, like follow that curiosity, and that's a sign oftentimes, like those little nudges, those little like, ooh, for some reason I'm like drawn to this, but I am really scared. That little like, ooh, I am drawn to it, is your intuition, is your energy trying to show you where to go. So lean into that. That's the biggest thing. The first part is like, are you really curious, or are you just doing it because someone else told you should be? So just make sure it's like really it's aligned with you. You're the one that's choosing to be curious in it. And if you are and you're really feeling that fear and discomfort and you're just scared, validate it. Let yourself know that fear is going to come up no matter what, because it's something new and it's something different. But the truth is, like when you're doing any sort of spiritual healing practice, and obviously go to a practitioner that you feel drawn to, that you feel safe with, your soul's going to guide you, and you're never going to see something that you're not meant to see, because your energy works with you. So it's not working against you, it's working with you. So like with Reiki, your energy is going to heal in the ways it needs. It's not going to like over heal or over release or overdo this. Like your energy knows what to do. So you don't have to worry about any of that. Or like with past life regressions, like you will only regress back to what you are meant to see. You're not going to regress back to like a really terrible traumatic thing if like you're not ready to see that, and you probably aren't meant to see all of your past lives or all of your past memories. Like there's certain things that we just don't need to know. And I think that's the beautiful thing with energy healing, especially, is we're just working with your energy. We don't know why it's like this. We don't know where it came from. Sometimes, practitioner can get a download and understand maybe why something is that way, but they might not share it with you because you don't need to know all of that. It's just an energetic spiritual soul healing. And when you're on a spiritual healing journey, we're working with your energy. We're not working with your mind. Really, that's the mental work, right? That can accompany spiritual healing work, but spiritual healing is done on the energetic level. So it's okay to be scared, but just recognize that like your energy is going to protect you, and what's ready to be released and healed is safe to be released and healed. And yeah, just go to someone that you are drawn to. Once again, that's probably your energy guiding you towards them. And if I hadn't gone to that Reiki practitioner because I was scared, I have a feeling I would have ended up going, because I was meant to go to one. I was meant to go to her specifically because she's just helped me so much. But it truly helped so much to just show up, do it scared, do it with discomfort. Like I remember that was the one thing that during my solo travels, I sent out like some solo travel emails about like the lessons I was learning as I was traveling. And the first email that I sent out was titled like, do it with fear, do it scared, do it despite discomfort. Because what I learned was the most beautiful things and the most beautiful growth are on the other side of the thing you're scared of. So don't don't be scared of fear. Don't let fear overtake you. Let it be your guiding compass to places that you've never been before and see where it takes you. And like the worst that happens is you have an experience and you didn't like it, and great, you don't do it again. But at least you tried, and I'm sure you've learned something and you've grown way more than you would have if you just never did it. So yeah.
Absolutely. I think that was the most beautiful way to explain that. I loved how you were talking about it's, it doesn't mean it's a red light, it's a green light. And I feel like there's a lot here around listening to the nudges of your intuition. And I feel that is where a lot of people would put on that red light and they're like, okay, this is a sign to not do it. But that's absolutely not. It's like, okay, this fear is coming up for you to see. Like you say, everything is that comes up that you see is meant to be seen. And that is something that is like, okay, maybe you can go to orange light, you can just like think about it, and then go to green light and then go and do something about it, and in whatever way that looks like for both of us, energy healing. So it's like listening to your intuition this can help. How would you say we've definitely been talking about this, but how would you say we can start really just listening to our intuition more and going with the nudges of the intuition?
I love that. I think the best way to start to connect more to your intuition is to actually work with the mind first. So whenever I start working with a client, the first thing that I have us do is like, I don't care what you think about it. We're going to start meditating every day. And I'm going to force you to create a practice that helps you to focus and concentrate the mind. Because at the end of the day, if the mind is super loud and super overpowering, you're never going to be able to tune into the intuition and those subtle cues, because the mind is so loud and the ego is always shouting at you and you're always in fight or flight. Like you're never going to be at a calm enough state. Like the waves are going to be crashing up against the shore that you're never going to be able to just like watch and see what's really going on, because there's just so much chaos there. So if we can start to implement a practice that allows you to quiet the mind and really work on strengthening things like mindfulness and concentration, that can really help strengthen connection to your intuition. So something that helped me just like crazy with experiencing deeper connection to my intuition was starting to do walking meditation. That was like one of the first things when I was volunteering at the Buddhist nunnery when I was traveling that they taught us to do was walking meditation, because it's you basically tuning into being in your body without thinking about it, which was the weirdest thing ever. I was like, what? Like when I first tried it, I thought I was doing it right. And then I was like, wow, I'm doing this so wrong because I was trying to think about what it feels like to be in the body. So with walking meditation, what you're doing is you are like basically walking, you just walk and back and forth on like a small path, just staring at the ground, and you just tune into the sensations of the body, whatever sensations arise. Like, hey, you taking a step, oh, can feel this tingling in my fingers. You just feel it. You're there. And then if you notice the mind start to wander, oh, you take note and then you come back. What sensation am I feeling in the body? So through that, I started to connect more to the sensations of my body and build a stronger connection to being in my body. And it was the first time in my entire life, I think, that I felt certain things. Like I felt what it feels like to be in my chest and what it feels like to be in my toes and my hands and my forehead, like things that I'd never been in before. But the reason why that deepens your connection to your intuition is because your intuition is part of your energetic body. It is not the mind. The mind is like like the monkey mind, we all have minds. It's part of being a human. You have a brain and it's beautiful. But the intuition is in our body. It is our soul. It is our essence and our energy that's always communicating with us. It's that higher perspective, right? Like your mind will only take in what it's conditioned and focused to take in, whereas your soul, your energy is like a 360 view of everything around you. It's connected above and below and all around. That's what intuition is. It's this like 100 times like inner knowing that you have, like where the mind will only pick up on the conditioned things that it's taught to look at. Your intuition is like a full 360 view of your life. So that's why it's so powerful when you start to connect to the body, because now you're going to be able to start to tune into, okay, I feel fluttering in the chest when I'm around this person. Oh, maybe I like them, or like certain things like that. So that was a long tangent, but basically, number one, work on calming the mind through implementing a regular meditation practice, and just do that for some time. And it will be crazy how much more mindful and aware you become of your body and your surroundings. Like when I started to implement mindfulness and meditation into my life, I became a whole different person. It was like when I was driving, I wasn't in my head all the time. I was starting to pick up on certain things, like how I felt, or that there were trees next to my work when I never noticed that before. And so I would really say, number one, if you want to strengthen your intuition, integrate some sort of mindfulness meditation practice. And number two, become aware of how the mind kind of is working and when it kind of pops up, and what's your ego versus what is your intuition. And when you start to feel those little intuitive urges, like, oh, I am really interested in energy healing, stop gaslighting yourself. And I think that's another thing that we mentioned in the live, is like self-doubt is the buzzkill of intuition. If you doubt every single time that you have a need, you have a desire, you have anything, you're automatically closing a door to your intuition. So if you're noticing yourself gaslighting yourself constantly, like if you have a need or a want and you're like, no, I shouldn't want that, I shouldn't need that, like just at least acknowledge and validate what's coming through, even if it doesn't make sense, even if it's like you have this random little urge or like a little download you get to like, oh, reach out to this person and it's kind of strange. Like, don't doubt it. Just say, oh, okay, interesting. I see you. And like that practice of just building more self-trust will increase your intuition and that pathway to your intuition. So release the self-doubt and just kind of see where that takes you. I don't want to say too much because I feel like the unfolding of connecting to your intuition is also very specific to each person, because it is part of your spiritual path. I think if you are a spiritual individual, you are meant to connect with your intuition more. You've been drawn to this path for a reason. But for starters, meditation, mindfulness practice daily, and stop gaslighting and the self-doubt, like become aware of it and start to validate things that come through, even if you don't act on them and even if they don't make sense.
That was some incredible advice. I was just sitting here, I'm like, wow, I'm starting to feel like extremely grounded as well. I'm like, maybe I'm going to go after this podcast episode and meditate, because I actually haven't done that today. And I'm like, this feels like what I need to do, listening to my intuition. But I think that's some incredible advice. I get that question a lot. Like, how do you connect more? How can I connect more with my intuition? And I think that that is perfect. And it's not, like you say, you don't want to say too much because it's super specific to each person's journey. But I feel like a regular meditation practice with consistency and observing just what is coming up, you will start to see, like, oh, like you say, like I know what it feels like to be in my toes and like just into my body. I think that that's so beautiful and so doable for people as well. I think a lot of people get meditation or do meditation and they're like, oh, I did it wrong, I'm not going to try again. But I really highly encourage everyone to just continue trying. And you mentioned earlier, like at least try for 14 to 21 days, if not more, but like to actually see if this feels good for you and right for you. But like a meditation practice 100% with consistency and, like you say, doing it well, you're going to notice, those nudges and your intuition coming through more so, and like the feelings in your body and the signs coming through. And even earlier with your journey, you were saying there were so many signs for me, but I just didn't see all of them. But now I look back and I can see all of them and how they were there. That could well be going on in, the listeners' lives at home now. So it's like, the more you tap into your intuition and follow those nudges, the more you will be able to see those signs, feel what, feels right, what's good, what doesn't, and really just come into alignment with yourself.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Meditation is wild. And I feel like in the past, I wouldn't have I guess I didn't realize how incredible it was until like a year later, reflecting on me when I was not meditating. And I'm like, I have become a whole different person. So it's definitely something that takes time. I'm working with a client right now that we started working together almost 3 months ago, but 3 months of daily consistent meditation has increased her intuition so much and has allowed her to be at ease so that she can actually feel in flow and be connected to to her intuition. Because at the end of the day, if you are very anxious and wanting to control everything, there's no room for your intuition to help you out. It's just your mind and your ego trying to control it all. So that's why a practice like meditation or daily EFT or daily mindfulness walking meditation is so helpful, because it helps to ease the mind and shift you into an energy of flow and receiving that guidance.
Wow. Karlie, this has been such an incredible, incredible conversation. I know that the listeners have a lot to think about now and just really start to implement and, yeah, I guess just think about within their lives. And I would love
Mm.
for you to tell us where we can find you, because I feel you're such an abundance bank of knowledge and experience, and I know a lot of people are going to want to come and get more of that from you. Where can we find you?
Of course. So I mainly am over on Instagram at Rise with Karlie. I'm sure it'll be in the show notes, but my name is spelled Karlie. So Rise with Karlie spelled that way. And I also recently started to post more on TikTok. It's mainly all just stuff from my Instagram, but if you want to follow me over there, it's the same username, Rise with Karlie. And I do like longer videos on there as well, like some more longer guided practices to like cleanse your energy. I do like channeled messages for the week. I also have an email list where I've started to do channeled crystal messages of the week. So I'll like basically do my practice of figuring out what crystal is like the energy is supported, and then I channel a message from that crystal for the week. So I have an email list where I'm starting to do that. I also do like individual Reiki sessions. So if you're interested in trying energy healing or you're drawn to it and you're just interested, feel free to DM me if you're like not sure if it's for you, because I know some people, they're like, I like don't know if I want to do it or not. Like we can just kind of chat about it and you can let me know where you're at and if this practice could support you. And then I also do channeled meditation sessions where I just kind of tune into what it is that you are looking to experience. And then I basically just guide you through a meditation while I channel it all on a Zoom call. And then I also just launched my first ever I guess like monthly spiritual support community subscription. It's called Receive and Rise. And the enrollment is open until the end of September. So Saturday, September 29th. And this is a beautiful space if you are like a spiritually conscious individual and you're kind of looking for an outlet of other people that get it. Because a lot of times when we are, just in our day-to-day lives, we can feel very secluded being a spiritually connected individual, because there's a lot of people around us that might not be. So if you're just looking for a space to receive support, channeled guidance, I do like bi-weekly resources like meditations, EFT, energetic healing practices. And then we also do a monthly meditation and Reiki healing call. So yeah, that was kind of a lot, but basically all of the things you can find me on Instagram or listen to my podcast too. I have a podcast. It's called Magnetizing Mindset. So yeah, you can tune into that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And everything will be in the show notes as well, so that it is easy to find all of those things because there's so much goodness within that. Once again, Karlie,
Mhm.
thank you so much for sharing all of this, sharing your story, sharing your wisdom, sharing your experiences and everything. It's been so, so good. Thank you for being here.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.